Welcome to ePathshala. Myself Richa, working as Assistant Professor in the Department of Political Science in MCM DAV College, Chandigarh. Today, I will discuss about the state in Asian and African countries. Well, first of all, I will start with that the state has the four essential elements, that is population, fixed territory, government and sovereignty. Population is very much essential for the development of the state. The territory should be reasonable. It should neither be too large nor too small. Government consists of three organs, that is the legislature, executive and judiciary. Legislature makes laws, executive implement laws and judiciary interprets the laws. And obviously there are various forms of government like dictatorship, authoritarianism, parliamentary and presidential. Sovereignty is of two types. One is the internal sovereignty and second one is the external. Internal sovereignty means that whatever the rules and regulation frame inside the state, the people has to follow that rules and regulations. And the external sovereignty deals with that the state is not under the influence of any international organizations and associations. Family. The family is be considered as the unit of society. A society is a place where individual will interact with each other and the individual will communicate with each other. Objectives: to be familiar with the societies in different states in Asia, to understand the nature of African societies, to endeavor to understand the role of the state in these societies, to understand the changing dynamics in Asian and African state. Distinction between state and society. The society is a larger entity than the state. The state is just one part of it, along with the economic, religious, cultural subparts. In the society, people perform roles and do activities in their private domain. Individuals undertake those activities in their private capacity, pursuing values and interests of their own and establishing among themselves relations which are not the concern of public policy. These activities of the individual are considered apolitical and neither does the state control or command over these. On the other hand, the state in the principle is an assemble of institutional arrangements and practices which on the one hand address all and only the political aspects of the management of a territorially bounded society. It represents and justifies itself as a realm of expressly political activities complementary to a difficult realm society comprising diverse social activities not considered political in nature, which the state's organ do not express, promote and control. Before industrialization, there was not much difference between state and society. In Europe, the kings and their divine rights theory, the church and the feudal lords dominated and dictated over the society. Even the Asian and African societies, the king commanded over the society and there was a very thin, rather an invisible between the society and the state. The king or the head of a tribe could just step into the domain of the society. The ruler associated themselves with any one religion, sect, etc., thus giving birth to an elite society. Private activities were carried out within the domain of the public sphere but controlled by the ruler. The process of modernization has made the difference between the society and the state very stark. The state monitors the activities of the society and its inhabitants. In the process, it pitches in to assist wherever and whenever required because the state has now evolved into a welfare state. Society in Asian society. The ancient society believed in hierarchical status. Unlike the West, individualism and demanding rights for oneself was considered determinant for the whole group. The social system was group-oriented. That is why power and authority rested in the hands of the heads of the group. The social system were traditional, which suppressed women and those who wanted to be innovated. Yet, the traditional social system survived for many centuries because these groupings were associated with feudal style relations, kingship, kinships, occupations, etc. Education was considered very important in all the Asian societies for literacy led to the achieving status and position in the society. The Chinese, the Korean and the Japanese society emphasized learning, but the Hindu society learning was a prerogative by birth. Caste occupied a major part in an individual life. Pollution, if touched by somebody from the lower caste, purity of the body, being pure or impure, etc., defined one daily routine. Caste also gave confidence to the people as they could forego group identity. Voluntary transfers of people from their birthplace was a rarity. Family was the state of microcosm and hierarchy was well maintained within the family. In some regions of Southeast Asia, daughters were considered an asset and were valued. In the rest of Asian society, patriarchal family was order of the day. Parda or veiling of women was practiced in some countries. A small elite existed in each country that controlled the assets as well as the means of production. People were hardworking, God-fearing, and depending a great deal on destiny. The society talked about collective responsibility and group identity. Dowry was common. Women were discriminated and even forced to go into a sex slave trade, prostitution, trafficking, and do beggar. Among the Asian societies, divisions on the basis of caste and religions are common. India, for example, boasts of an ancient civilization where people sometimes lived under kings and at other times faced the onslaught of invaders. Hinduism assimilated people and hence grew as a civilization with diverse groups living together. Adjustment, accommodation, assimilation were the words that drove the society. Every community was given the right to profess and propagate its religion without stepping into the other's realm. Of course, cases of certain rulers imposing their religion were there, but were few. Caste was one factor that divided the Hindu society and led to gross violation of human rights of the people placed on the lowest ring in the hierarchy, that is, the Shudras, who were treated as untouchables. The different strata had defined functions to perform, and each lived in its sphere with no rooms for violation. The society and the state often overlapped. The last century saw the emergence of many newly independent states, which managed to break the shackles of slavery. Prior to their independence, the great civilization of Asia had been annexed by colonial powers like the British, French, and the Portuguese. The colonial master brought with their lifestyles, customs, and traditions which were entirely different from the practices of the ancient society. Then started a process of repair and patchwork by the colonizers and starting the process of fixing the gaps in the ancient societies. They found everything wrong with the Asian societies, the culture, the habits, the lifestyles, religion, education, etc. The evils of caste, class, religion, and language divided the society, coupled with the fact that women were suppressed. States in Asian societies. The state in Asian society as a modern entity has been a new entrant, but gradually it has helped in achieving the aspirations of the people, or at least has tried to include their dreams in every program. The state has stepped in a welfare state in most of the ancient society. It has tried to strengthen the existing formal political institution which it inherited from the colonial masters. In other societies, it has tried to create legal institutions. The state, as in India, is very actively involved in the welfare scheme, which are many in number. There are various schemes floated for women, scheduled caste and tribes, children, senior citizens, and other marginalized and vulnerable people of the country. The Constitution of India has made provisions for the minority so that they can flourish in an environment where they can develop their personality to the full. The Constitution promises that India would be a secular state where all religion would be given equal status. The challenge that India faces today is to continue its growth path in a sustainable form. This means creating conditions that enable the majority of Indians to participate in the gain of the growth. The state in all Asian societies has tried to build a close network between the various sectors. Following the principle of distributive justice, fairness, equitable distribution to wealth, the Indian state has passed law so that there is no concentration of power. The tax structure is based in such a way that the rich pay more so as to reduce spendings on luxuries, and this also curbs the black economy. A lot of people are living below the poverty line. The government has tried to eliminate poverty again through various schemes. There are many who struggle for one square meal a day. The infrastructure is being built by the government. The government of India has passed many laws to protect women and also give them equal status in the society. Years of suppressions of the women in the society could be mitigated only by the interventions of the state. So, we have the Hindu Succession Act of 1957, the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005, to protect and empower the women. Sex determination test is banned, and so are evils like sati, child marriage, etc. There is no clear distinction between the state and society in China. The society is tightly controlled by the party in power. The state controls all the spheres of life, be it social, cultural, economic, or political. This raises the problem of absolutism and denial of rights in the vast population. The state hegemony is a cause for concern because it is very dominating. Thus, there is no reciprocity among the two, the society and the state. China and Korea are examples of a cohesive state where bureaucracy is competent and is an authority. They have firm control over the society. There is no accountability to the people where they have explanation of every act. India, Nepal, Sri Lanka are fragmented societies where the respective states are doing a remarkable job to bring about unity and oneness. Nepal Constitution, adopted in 2015, is an example of a constitution based on equality and liberty. In the Middle East, Islam binds the society of the states together. It becomes the duty of the state to keep the societal limitations in mind while making any law. Yet, the states in Asian societies have to face many challenges. Large parts of state functionings are embedded in various forms of patronage, corruption, political finance nexus. This flows from many sources. In many, patronage is a natural form of state behavior in which political loyalty is provided in return for the delivery, or at least the promise of delivery of specific goods, jobs, or services to the individual or group. The state is caught in corruption, nepotism, and also in the mere of vote bank politics. The formal institutions in many countries like Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka are weak. In these states, the democratic process has broken down many times. The state has not been able to escape the negative influence of caste, religion, region, language, etc. Groups with separatist tendency are active in most ancient societies. In India, we have the problems of Naxalites. Then in Sri Lanka, we have had the liberation of Tamil Tiger Elam that challenged the might of the state and government for many decades. Bangladesh and Pakistan states have been periodic coups by the military. Social deprivation has been led to political instability and weakening of the state structure. In all Asian societies, the elites have hijacked power and resources, and the common people are following in their footsteps. Corruption has seeped into the society as well as the state. The big politician has messed up politics. The civil servants has clogged the informations. The businessman has indulged in sharp practices and increased the imbalance in the social order. The workers has led down the country by his stance against high productivity. The former has upset the normal channels of trade by hoarding and black marketing. His produce, the petty officials and the petty politicians have organized rackets to defraud the state and the people. Religion is a major issue in most of the societies and thus become issue of conflict for the state and within the state. Lieutenant General Hamid Gul, former ISI chief, takes pride that Pakistani army soldiers have always been religious, but now a growing number of officers have turned Islamist. When the society stepped in religion, it becomes difficult to reverse the process. But Other report talks about the majority of people in the society who do not agree to the Islam in Pakistan, but they are scared to talk for they would be treated as traitor. The state-society relationship suffers in Afghanistan, where divisions and identities along the traditional lines of ethnicity, tribe, clan, language and religion are still a vital component of Afghans' life. The ethno-territorial, primordial loyalties and shifting alliances have since time immemorial to the day characterized and defined the socio-political behavior and the resulting conflict in this unique land. Although the revolution for national independence in India has been largely won, the more deep-rooted revolution of rising expectation has just begun. Already it is threatening to become the revolution of rising frustrations. The patience of the people is running thin with each passing day. The institutions are not delivering what they promise. For its part, the so-called Third World, wishing to gain a unique identity and to limit both Western and Eastern cultural and political domination, has sought to develop a set of systems and styles of governance that are particularly suited to their poor economy and immobile societies. The endeavor is to develop with the best combination of developing while retaining the old. The elites also desire to develop, but on their own terms, so that the management remains in their hand and there is no shrinking of their space. With the concept of welfare state, there is no escape from the fact that the benefits will be demanded by all the sundry, irrespective of caste, class and region. As the impatience of the voter grows, the government has to accelerate the process of development. African societies. Most of Africa was under colonial rule since the late 1950s, known as the Dark Continent. The African society is divided among tribes. Africa is a troubled continent bubbling with conflict forces and tribal, personal and national rivalries. The society is religious, conservative and has its own social and cultural norms. Poverty, illiteracy, malnutrition, superstition, slavery, the African society has seen it all. Witchcraft, black magic, the oracle science have guided the people since centuries. The patronage-client relationship is strong and loyalty span generations. Discrimination of the most ruthless kind created havoc with the self-confidence of the African citizens. The settling of the colonizers in Africa led to the introduction of a new culture, religion, norms to the African society. Discrimination has made the indigenous population bitter. The old institutions and loyalties broke down under the colonial impact. The clash or values between two cultures has created a clash between traditionalism and family ties. The tribal life brought about oneness and wholeness to the Africans. Hierarchy was strictly followed in the tribes, and each tribe was divided into the elders, who were responsible for mediating, resolving conflict, and running the day-to-day affairs of the tribe, and the youngsters who hunted, worked, and provided for the tribe. Thus, there was a special age and work association. Customs and habit played a predominant role in these societies. The concept of private property did not exist and the land was commonly owned. The chief of the tribe was the one to dictate terms. Patriarchal family was the norm. Sometimes the chief ruled with the help of council of elders. Individual interest was subservient to the interest of the group or the tribe. Urbanization led to the breaking of tribal traditions. Tribal warfare also led to the local wars, which made the state interfere in the tribal matters. The state that time meant the colonial master who took advantage of the chaos. Tribal society lived by their own rules in the stateless societies. Religion played a very important role in the lives of the people. They associated themselves closely with the nature. Women tended to the children and played the role of nurturer. Society was thus traditional with its own rule. African tribal society was considered rigid. But the African understood this life and were comfortable in it. This life was in a primary society but gave a unique wholeness to the tribals. The tribal precedents were valued and followed, which gave the Africans a sense of belonging to the land, an attachment to their brethren, and link with their past. All this was broken by the entity of foreigners who connived with the tribal chiefs and other selfish people who sold their land and culture for personal profit. State in African society. Many view the fact that African has been transported very abruptly from the traditional societies to the modern states. The change has been abrupt and painful. The colonial master left the society very weak and divided. They were substituted by local leaders who started amassing wealth, ignoring and impoverished many. In many countries, the leaders were naive and inexperienced so that they could not hold power, and it slowly passed in the hands of dictators. In other countries, the small elite continue to attain power, many times by fraudulent means. The elite and the selfish leader were blinded by the power that came with the office. The emphasis was on personal advancement. The elites enjoy the same privilege that the imperial masters enjoy. The majority of African states had weak formal institutions where it was easy for the elite to remain in power. When the people expressed their frustration, many leaders retaliated by imposing authoritarian rule. These dictators imprisoned, tortured, and maimed their own citizens. There were gross human rights violations, and dissenting voices were curbed. Democratic norms and cultures were sacrificed at the altar of totalitarianism. The state failed to protect its own citizens, rather become the inflictor itself. The people mistrust politicians as well as the elite. The bureaucratic control has shifted the society as well as state. The emphasis of the elite, bureaucracy, and the politician is on their own survival. Corruption is eating into the vitals of society as well as the state, and both the institutions are encouraging it. The color of the skin of the elite is different. The colonial masters were white and the natives are black, but the purpose is same: exploitation. A majority of people continue to be marginalized and poor. The state has not been able to reach them and improve their lot. The basic facilities like food, clean water, medical aid, infrastructure are still in pathetic shape. The politicians have hoarded wealth while the population is impoverished. The elites have sold the state to foreign companies, which are pilfering the resources at an alarming speed. The elites are amassing wealth at the expense of those whom they are supposed to govern. Today, politics has become an absorbing profession, or at least pastime. The elite have refused to step down from the power. They manipulate power, institutions, and structure in such a way that the essence of democracy is eliminated. The state has not been innovated in creating and implementing programs. The state has failed to protect women and also failed to improve their lives. Water is to be carried from miles. Lack of basic facilities make the people want to migrate to other countries. Failure on the part of the state to implement plan and to spend judicially is a big reason for frustration. Lack of action on the part of state has led to a feeling of indignity among the people. There is absence of peace and security because armed groups move about freely even in those states which claim to be democratic. The people are misinformed and they have to be participant in wars which are actually going to benefit the elite, because the latter are going to profit by imparting arms and weapons. In many countries, the state has collapsed and given way to authoritarian regime. The elites have at times provoked their own people to fight against each other so that they can remain in harness. People are disillusioned because the state have failed to deliver. So, in the end, I can conclude that in Asian and African societies, the inequalities as well as the other things dominates the society, which leads to the exploitation in the society. The religion is the basic thing which plays a major role in Asian and African societies. The religion dominates the society, and this results in the underdevelopment of the society. The state tried to work for the individual, and they work for the benefits of the individuals, the workers, etc. But there are the bureaucratic pressures which do not want that the state should individually work for the individual. So, in this regard, the elite culture come into existence. So, if we want to overcome, if we want to get rid from this situation, we have to abolish all those things. We have to get rid from all these things like corruptions, like nepotism and authoritarianism in the state. And if all these come to an end, then obviously the state will work properly.